on, and welcome to the high-ticket world of million-dollar cars, featuring stories from the hit television show Wild About Wheels. We'll be taking you to Pebble Beach, California for the spectacular Concours d'Elegance, and we'll learn about the incredibly rare Alfa Romeo Bat cars. We'll see million-dollar vintage racers at Laguna Seca, million-dollar Cobras tangling in vintage racing in Palm Springs, a look at the Ferrari phenomenon, collector car shopping on both coasts. Then it's off to Europe to see the fabulously rare creations of designer Franco Sparro, a look at the magnificent Bugatti EB110 supercar. And we'll see wealthy car lovers bidding on multi-million-dollar classics at a collector car auction. I'm your host, Bill Stevens, and if you're ready, we're off to Southern California and the Concours d'Elegance. The Monterey Peninsula, between San Francisco and Los Angeles, has long attracted the beautiful people to its particular charm. Visitors are gathered here this weekend for a special reason, to celebrate the automobile at the annual Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. At the Concours, the great era of classic automobiles is captured in a setting that matches the beauty of these elegant motor cars. Only the creme de la creme of these fabulously valuable cars are invited to take part in this revered show on the expansive lawn known as the 18th Fairway. Although many of these cars are shipped or trucked to the event, each car must be driven onto the grounds. This million-dollar car is a 1953 Alfa Romeo BAT5. Judging starts at 9 a.m. sharp. By mid-morning, the field is crowded with spectators, and the California lifestyle is in full bloom. Here at the Concours, the family picnic takes on new meaning, complete with chamber music. But we're really here for the cars, like this one, an incredibly rare Corvette SR2. Built by Chevy in 1956, one of the first Corvette racing prototypes. Plus, beautifully restored collector cars from Europe, Japan, and Australia, all brought here to compete for the coveted awards. The cars are arranged in 20 classifications, ranging from brass-era antiques to post-war Ferraris and Maseratis. This year, the Hispano-Suiza J12, known as the Car of Kings, a true million-dollar car, is featured on the upper field of the Concours. Only 120 were built between 1931 and 1938. 30 were stabled at the Royal Palace of Spanish King Alfonso XIII. This Rolls-Royce was built for the Maharaja of Kutali, India. An avid hunter, he had the car mounted with 4 guns, a cannon in the back, a Gatling machine gun, and 14 rifles. Current owner Reuben German tells us some of the bizarre history of this car.
They had beaters who they would go into the wild and chase the animals towards the car. And then they'd blast the animals, and many times there's no such thing as an old beater. See, a good beater never lived long.
To win at Pebble Beach is the sweetest of victories. Here the judges give every car the white glove treatment, even to checking the windshield wipers. There you go. With the judging completed, the awards are presented. A special moment arrives for every owner as he parades his machine over the ramp before the onlooking crowd and the judging panel. The Gold Award for its class is presented to the owners of this beautiful Ferrari Testarossa Spider by racing legend Phil Hill.
Phil Hill presenting the awards. This marvelous first prize winner in class M1. Congratulations, gentlemen, on the beautiful Ferrari.
The Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance trophy for Best of Show is taken home by John and Patricia Mozart for this gorgeous 1937 Alfa Romeo 290B Touring Spider. They say that Pebble Beach is for golf, but as far as anyone here today is concerned, the Pebble Beach Golf Links is at its best when the 18th Fairway is covered fender to bumper with the most beautiful and desirable automobiles in the world. Let's get a closer look at 3 of the most talked about cars at this or any other Concours d'Elegance, the fabulous Alfa Romeo Bat cars of Giuseppe Bertoni. Collectible, rare, priceless. These are words used for many vintage and antique automobiles, but those three words find new meaning when used to describe three of the rarest, most desirable, and most elegant automobiles in the world, the Alfa Romeo BAT or BAT cars. Here at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, we're about to enjoy the unique opportunity to admire up close the only three BAT cars ever produced. Back in the early 1950s, Alfa Romeo commissioned the Italian design house of Bertone, designers of production Lancias and Alfas, to sculpt these futuristic design studies. Franco Scaglione headed the team at Bertone that created just three BAT cars. The BAT 5 in 1953, the BAT 7 in 1954, and the BAT 9 in 1955. Although strangely reminiscent of the winged rodent and Batman's Batmobile, the BAT designation is actually an acronym for Berlina Aerodynamica Technica, the designation for this aerodynamic design experiment using the Alfa Romeo chassis and powered by Alfa's 1900 Sprint high-compression engine. Bertone's coach builder's first BAT design, the BAT 5, cost over $25,000 to build, but was sold in 1953 to its first owner, Stanley Arnold of Indiana, for just $7,650. Saeed Marouf, a car collector from La Jolla, California, who bought the BAT 5 from its second owner, Joe Prysack, in 1987, takes great pleasure in preserving automotive history.
Satisfaction is part of collecting, and you preserve history for further generation, and so they can see what we achieved in the 1950s or the 60s or 70s.
The 1954 BAT 7 is the most radical of the three. It is now owned by Lorenzo Zambrano of Monterrey, Mexico. While beautiful in its own right, its sweeping wings and flaring body panels were too complex to ever be considered for a production car. But this flair for excess is in fact practical. The BAT 7 has a coefficient of drag of just 0.19 at 150 kilometers or 93.75 miles per hour, cutting through the air better than today's Lamborghini Diablo and Ferrari Testarossa. In 1955, Bertone coach builders completed the last of the three slippery BATs, the BAT 9, owned for over 26 years by Gary F. Caberly of Traverse City, Michigan.
Well, I've been the longest owner of BATs, and I'm truly excited to be here to see all three BATs together. It's been a dream of mine for 26 years. It was 2 years after I purchased the car, when I was 16, that I really knew what it was. And I found out about it in an old Road and Track magazine. So I knew nothing, but now I do. I know lots now.
The Alfa Romeo BAT cars, all one-off, rolling works of art. And as we join Saeed Marouf, Lorenzo Zambrano, and Gary Caberly in saluting Giuseppe Bertone and his company's masterpieces, we are reminded that these stunning kinetic sculptures occupy a unique position in automotive design history. For us and all of those at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, they are truly priceless treasures of the 20th century. And now the other half of this $1 million weekend. The vintage races at Laguna Seca. Don Westcott has the story.
The sun-splashed seacoast of California is a treat for the eyes as the Pacific Ocean rolls onto the picturesque shoreline. But each year, the peaceful pace of Laguna, California's usual lifestyle, is blasted into the past as vintage automobile racing takes center stage at the Laguna Seca road course. The vintage racing at Laguna Seca is a veritable banquet of sights and sounds. These cars are rolling history books that have maintained racing's glorious connection with the past. Many of these cars have achieved greatness in their first racing exploits decades ago, and now they defy the winds of progress as they compete in head-to-head vintage races. Let's take a walk around Laguna Seca and soak in some of the unique visual delights that attract people from all over the world. The hills of Laguna Seca echo with the energy of an endless variety of race cars darting from corner to straight. And the people who come here are as different as the cars themselves, along with their reasons for coming.
I love cars, and what better place to be than at this track this time of the year? I guess the thing I like best is the old Formula One cars.
In search of the man with money? No. No. I come here because it's just a local event.
I don't know, I just think it's fantastic. It's a lot of nostalgia, a lot of things. I like to see all the work that goes into the cars.
My boss races. He's got a 62 Cobra, so come up and see somebody I know.
Two things take you back. One is cars, the other is music, so this is half of it.
Each year, the organizers focus the spotlight on a particular make or genre of automobile. Have you ever had the chance to see dozens of thoroughbred Maseratis cruising nose to tail in one place at one time? You're looking at several millions of dollars joyriding within feet of each other.
Did you see the parade lab, the Maserati parade lab? Oh, we were in it. It was fun. We took pictures with people taking pictures. It was great.
Although the incredible vintage cars at an event like this are in many instances priceless, the people who own and race them give them a real workout.
It's amazing. These guys bring them out, run them hard. I don't know.
And what kinds of cars do the racing fans come to the track in? Just name it.
I have an old Alfa Romeo.
I'm a Jaguar freak, and I have my own XK 150S Roadster, and anything about Jaguars I love.
I have a Porsche 356, an ex-German police car right now.
A Nissan Pulsar. A Jeep Cherokee.
Many of the people who come to the vintage races weren't even born when some of these cars were making history. But that doesn't interfere with their appreciation or enthusiasm.
Oh, that's the fun of it. In a museum, the car, you can't tell the noise, you can't open the hood, you can't look at the motors, and you see them all in that situation here.
It's too much. It's just sensory overload after a while. It's a great event, though.
Listening to the Ferraris. It's like a purr of a great cat. It's really incredible.
And although some of the cars may be tough to get your hands on, along with some other things, there can be no argument that the opportunity to see three legendary drivers sitting in the legendary cars that they raced to many international wins is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Carroll Shelby, winner of Le Mans in 1959 and father of the Cobra.
Hey, how you doing, Dad?
Sterling Moss, probably the greatest driver never to win the World Championship. And a man who did, Phil Hill, the only American driver in history to do so.
The armpit test.
Which is that one?
When you hold it under your arm and then you let loose like that, and it cracks when it hits the ground.
Vintage racing at Laguna Seca. Is it as good as it looks?
I think it's fantastic.
It's a treat, wholly a treat.
Classic.
California, awesome.
Strap on your helmets. The raw power of big American V8s is beckoning us to Palm Springs, where owners of priceless race cars from Shelby American are about to run wild. One of the crown jewels in the vintage car racing season takes place in late autumn, here in Palm Springs, California. The historic races that reverberate through the dry desert air feature any and every make and configuration of race car that has scorched the asphalt of racing's most revered venues: Riverside, Sebring, Le Mans, Daytona, and countless others. We visited the Palm Springs Vintage Race Weekend in November of 1990 to get a good solid dose of nostalgic overload. Because, as is the custom, a different racing mark is highlighted and saluted at this event every year. And in 1990, there was a horsepower glut at Palm Springs, California of immense proportion. The featured mark, the fabulous, fast, and unflinching creations of Carroll Shelby. Shelby was unable to make the event himself since he was home recovering from a heart transplant. But his name was truly well represented. The Carroll Shelby story would require much more time than we have here to be told properly. It's one part Horatio Alger, one part Wyatt Earp, and a splash of traveling medicine show. Mike Donovan of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, the proud owner of a Shelby Mustang, gave us a quick overview of what made the name Shelby synonymous with high performance.
Carroll Shelby started it all in 63 and 64, putting American V8 and an English chassis, and that became the Cobra. And then in 65, he took a 2+2 Mustang fastback, and with his conversions of special shocks, suspension, intake manifold, converted and started the first Shelby GT350s, of which 532 were made. And they were all started as a Mustang 2+2. And he changed rear ends, transmissions, aluminum intake manifolds, a special carburetor, special shocks, and sway bars.
Seeing an original Shelby Cobra or GT350 or GT500 Mustang drive by can be a real rush. What must owning one be like?
Oh, you think of Carroll Shelby, you think of the Mustang, the success of the Mustang, and it's part of that success, and even more so being a limited production model. And you've got a car that has a tremendous history, the Mustang itself, and then you have even a more special segment of that car in a limited edition Shelby GT350.
The racing history of the cars of Carroll Shelby gives new meaning to the word dominant. The Cobra has always been one thoroughly untamed reptile. They were essentially built with 260, 289, 427, and 428 cubic inch Ford V8s. Street racers hated the Cobra, except if they happened to be driving one. And on the track, both the Cobras and GT350s, especially the 1965 and 1966 model GT350s, won so many production championships in so many sanctioning bodies for almost a decade that it borders on the ludicrous. And just about everyone knows that the Ferrari name held a stranglehold on the world manufacturer's title for GT cars for season upon season until 1965, when Shelby's Cobras rode into town. And Shelby's GT350 Mustangs dined on many a Corvette in the SCCA's B production class during the mid-60s. One thing that all vintage Shelby owners share in common is a hearty desire to drive their cars just as hard as they can, which might seem a little bit foolish when you consider their current value. For instance, if you had $7,000 back in 1966 and listened to Mom and put the money in the bank at 5% annual interest, today your balance would show about $15,000. Now, if instead of listening to Mom, you listened to your libido and bought a 427 Cobra with your $7,000, your money would now have multiplied to over $200,000, if you were wise enough to keep the Cobra.
I've owned this particular car in one state or another for about 25 years.
Worth a little more now than it was when you bought it.
Boy, that's for sure. It started off as a real bad wreck. It was destroyed, essentially.
Well, after a full day of pushing these powerful, priceless playthings to their ultimate potential, it's back to the paddock and not a portfolio. Because the supreme tribute to Carroll Shelby is having the time of your life in one of the cars that bears his name, Shelby. See ya at the next race. Right now, we're off to Massachusetts for a day in the sun admiring the arch enemy of those Cobras, the power and the beauty of the inimitable Ferraris. Dateline, Lexington, Ohio. Ferrari's new F40 continues to create a sensation with race fans as it competes in the hotly contested IMSA GTO division. Dateline, Las Vegas. Vintage Ferraris are selling at auction for unheard of sums, especially historic race models for several millions of dollars. Dateline, Southern California. Exotic automobile brokers see ever-rising prices for new Ferraris since the passing of the company's legendary founder, Enzo Ferrari. Those are just 3 examples of what is fast becoming the Ferrari phenomenon. For almost 50 years, the name Ferrari has exemplified an unmatched reputation for high-performance motoring. But recently, especially since the passing the enigmatic father of this great car, interest and investment in any vehicle with the Ferrari name has multiplied greatly. Ferraris have always borne the heritage of racing. Enzo Ferrari began his automotive career in his homeland of Italy as a racing driver. Soon he was producing fast, agile sports cars, which almost overnight became dominant adversaries. The Ferrari image of excellence is due in no small part to the design house of Pininfarina in Turin, Italy, which has produced the fabulous coachwork that can turn heads the world over. At the Northeast Region's Ferrari Club of America Concours, held at the world-famous Lars Anderson Museum near Boston, dozens of the most desirable motor cars ever to put tire to pavement were on display and in competition to earn special recognition for their originality and appearance. This 1960 250 California Spider is a fantastic example of Ferrari's bold combination of power and style. This model wears the SWB designation, which stands for short wheelbase. With this kind of styling and V12 power, it is truly a most desirable car. In fact, later that day, it won the Best of Show award for proud owner Sherman Wolf. Mark Siegel owns this beautifully restored 1973 240 GTS, or Dino Ferrari. Why is it called Dino?
Ferrari's son, Dino, had designed parts of the engine and the engine layout. That's how it was named after his son, Dino, who died of leukemia. And the engine in the car was named after him, their production run.
Here's a 1965 330 2+2. This one has the 4 headlight configuration, which was discontinued the following year and replaced with a more conventional 2 headlight arrangement. Available only 10 years ago for perhaps $15,000 to $20,000, they are now well over $100,000 in value. This Ferrari Mondial Cabriolet is the current Ferrari of choice for those desiring top-down touring. It's powered by a fuel-injected midship-mounted V8, and of course, if you must have a new Ferrari with a V12, there's the all-conquering Testarossa, familiar to anyone who has watched Miami Vice, a $300,000 guarantee of being noticed wherever you drive. These Ferrari lovers obviously take great care to pamper their ever more valuable cars. But another group of Ferrari owners in Florida, members of the Ferrari Club of America's Southeast region, have a different view of showing off their prized possessions. An open track event at a nearby road course is just the ticket. The value of some of these cars has really hit the high road, and yet here they are getting a good rowdy workout. That's a Ferrari Testarossa, the original design, and that was one of the most feared and respected GT racers during the 50s and 60s. And this silver Ferrari GTO is easily $1 million sports car, with only a handful of them imported to the United States. This is perhaps the most beautiful car ever to wear the Ferrari name. A 1972 365 GTB4 Daytona. With V12 power, it's extremely valuable. And yet, several of them are on this road course, slicing and dicing just for the fun of it. John Nargisian owns 2 Ferraris, and the Ferrari phenomenon clearly has a hold on him.
It's a great thrill in life. It's a great experience in all the senses.
After years of concentrating on Formula One racing, Ferrari has now moved back into the production-based family of race cars with the F40. Originally designed to compete in the now discontinued Group B category of international competition, the F40 has now become a serious threat in IMSA GTO racing. Ferrari plans to build only a very limited run of these enormously powerful mid-engine twin-turbo GT cars. It has easily become the most sought-after Ferrari of the modern era, and race fans who watch it battling against opponents of much more middle-class backgrounds are getting a special treat indeed. The Ferrari phenomenon appears to be no flash-in-the-pan oddity. The popularity and passion that these cars generate continue to steadily grow, and those who are lucky enough to own them, either for quiet country joyrides amidst the blowing leaves of autumn, or muscling down straights and through the S's at a racetrack, all have their own special reasons for experiencing the Ferrari mystique.
I'm Italian.
Right now, we're going collector car shopping. We'll see both ends of the classic car spectrum, from inexpensive to ultra-expensive and everything in between. Let's assume for just a minute that you are fabulously wealthy. And even though you live an outrageously extravagant lifestyle, you still have a couple of $100,000 burning a hole in your pocket. And suddenly you find yourself wanting to get into the exotic or collector car market. How can you find the car you want? Most serious collectors attend collector car auctions, which have become so popular and profitable that it's believed that there is a collector car auction somewhere in the country on every day of the year. But maybe buying an expensive car in front of all those people and the pressure of raising a bid by several $1,000s with the gavel about to come down is too stressful for you. Well, now there's another way to buy that exotic or collector car, and it's an idea that has really mushroomed in recent years. Collector car dealers. And we thought we'd show you several different ones. As you might expect, Southern California is a veritable supermarket of special interest cars. And LA Cars is a small dealership that offers Los Angeles area buyers a fairly broad swing in variety. From antique Model A's to right-hand drive Jaguar XKE Roadsters to genuine Detroit muscle cars. Or maybe you'd like a Lincoln Continental with a customized tail section. Or how about a 1951 Buick Woody station wagon? Or a 1949 Chevy Ragtop? Or a 1960 Cadillac Eldorado? Or a gunmetal gray Caddy convertible with a fully functional power top? You want something a little more unconventional? How about a 1959 Edsel four-door sedan? Or a vintage Porsche 1600 Coupe, hopefully with a spare? Even a 1966 Sunbeam Tiger. What makes a used car lot like LA Cars so popular is that for the most part, these cars don't run briskly into six figures on the window stickers, so it allows you to get a start in the collector car hobby at a manageable price. But the exotic collector car hobby thrives on cars with unmanageable prices. So let's see where your unlimited wealth might be a vital necessity. This is the Auto Toy Store in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Even before you walk in, one look around the lot and you immediately get the feeling that the upper crust does its car shopping here. And like LA Cars, there's lots of variety at the Auto Toy Store, but the inventory is considerably more exotic. You can't get much more exotic than a genuine 1964 Ferrari 250 GTO, or a tasty selection of race-ready Formula One and kart race cars. Plus a full line of Ferraris in varying styles and colors of newer vintage, and some Excalibur neo-classics thrown in. Few cars for sale at the Auto Toy Store are priced at under $50,000, while many are more than $100,000. Now, if your bankroll is still sitting in your Now account at this point, let's make one more stop. Where else but in Beverly Hills, California, at the corner of Wilshire and La Cienega Boulevards, and this mecca of motor-driven, mega-priced merchandise. This is Black on Black, and if you've got the money, they've got the car. Rick Black is the owner of this automotive Fort Knox, and he explained to us his definition of an exotic or collector car.
When you refer to exotic and the collectible, we're talking about limited production of several different makes, whether it be Ferrari or Lamborghini or Mercedes or Porsche. Those cars will never be built again. Some cars are destroyed through wrecks and accidents, fires, and so we lose a certain percentage every year. And as that percentage narrows and we get down to the smaller numbers, the value of the car climbs.
Well, speaking of value, let's take a look at some of the cars we can buy and how much they are.
This is a 1957 300 SL Roadster in front of us. The car has been completely restored, and it's offered at the retail price of $300,000. Behind me is a 1989 Lamborghini anniversary issue. The car is practically brand new. It has less than 300 miles on it. The anniversary Countach was a limited production vehicle by Lamborghini. The car is offered at $225,000.
Plus, there's this 1977 Koenig modified twin-turbo 700 horsepower Ferrari Boxer for $250,000. Or this 1989 Porsche Speedster, one of only 800 built, for $85,000. Or this factory drag racing Shelby GT350 Mustang, one of only 2 built to these specs for $100,000. All car lovers know the kind of gut sensation that washes over them when they see cars like these. We asked Rick to explain why that happens, and he offered his somewhat Freudian opinion.
I think a lot of it is probably basically sexual attraction to the vehicle. There's 2 things that make a man's heart tick fast. One is a beautiful woman, and the other is an exotic car.
Well, beautiful cars and beautiful people do seem to travel in the same circles. And I hope we all get the chance someday to walk into a dealer like Black on Black, pick out whatever car we want, and pay the man in cash. In the meantime, I think I can swing that 1961 Rambler American. We're on our way to Switzerland to visit with a man who has designed many million-dollar cars with an uncanny flair for innovation and daring. Engineer-designer Franco Sparro. An exotic mid-engine sports car which magically reveals its entire engine. An extraordinary grand touring car with 2 separate frames. A car which rides on wheels that have nothing in the middle. These are just some of the unmistakable designing credentials of Franco Sparro, a designer and engineer of such unconventional brilliance and vision that a visit to his workshop in the hamlet of Granson, Switzerland might be called a fantastic journey to another automotive solar system. Born in Italy in 1939, Sparro is always fascinated with automobiles, especially in their mechanical aspects. And following engineering school, he designed and built his first prototype sports car in 1960. Over the next 30 years, he designed and constructed close to 100 cars, some going into limited production. No Sparro creation will ever be tagged a copycat. Every car he builds is a bold statement of individual expression. Think of something you've never seen translated to a car, and in this surreal warehouse of imagination, you'll see it. He holds 18 patents, and you get the feeling as you drink in these bizarre surroundings that sameness is not spoken here. We've heard some people say that they have so many of something they're stacked to the rafters, but rarely do they mean cars. Through a translator, Sparro shared some of his obsession with us.
I am above all a lover of pieces, of objects, automobiles, of mechanical objects. The automobile for me is above all a need, a necessity, that has allowed me over time to deepen my technical knowledge, of which I can never get enough.
To see his workshop is to understand the man. What we take as far-reaching and revolutionary, he tries to make tangible. Sophisticated engines, body panels, previous works, current projects, even the most unusual salvage yard we had ever seen behind the building, helped to perpetuate the fascinating mystique that defines Franco Sparro. When he's not building headlining concept cars for the Geneva Auto Show, he takes on privately commissioned projects, like construction of an exacting replica of a legendary Ferrari P4 prototype for a Japanese customer, without aid of Ferrari blueprints or sketches. As a former Ferrari mechanic, he's building it from memory.
It was also necessary that I create for myself a type of client who, if they come to me, it is because truly they must feel something, a true passion for the automobile of their dreams, of their sleepless nights. And they come to me because they need confidence. They know that I have a history.
This is the Chrono. Built in 1990, largely from carbon fiber materials, substances which Sparro endorses greatly, it weighs little more than a ton and features this amazing cantilevered subframe which exposes the BMW M1 power plant for easy access. And Sparro's latest project, the Helios, both a closed car and a cabriolet, an amazing 21st century GT car with 2 separate frames, one which carries the drivetrain and suspension, another which supports the cabin structure. Beyond cutting edge. And perhaps Franco Sparro's most notorious innovation, the infamous hubless wheel, an idea that came to Sparro in 1989. Through a startling setup of brake calipers and bearings, this system requires no axles, hubs, or wheel centers. He is quiet, humble, yet at the same time passionate and undaunted. While much of the world strives to fall in step and play by the book, Franco Sparro dares to slap convention in the face and bring the naysayers over to his side. He is perhaps the only man in history who has truly reinvented the wheel. In the early decades of the 20th century, the name Bugatti meant power, speed, and excellence. We're on our way to Modena, Italy, where a new Bugatti supercar, the EB110, is about to rewrite automobile history. The Wild About Wheels cameras have traveled to Campo Galliano, Italy, just outside Modena, to this magnificent factory complex, which was built recently at a reported cost of between $100 and $200 million. Its purpose: to construct what will most likely be the most exclusive, most powerful, and unquestionably the fastest exotic sports car of the century, which will wear the heritage of almost 100 years of performance achieved by its creators. Its name, the Bugatti EB110. The EB designation represents the initials of Ettore Bugatti, who, although was born in Italy, built automobiles in France from the early 1900s until just after World War II. This car, the Type 35, was one of history's most dominant race cars, winning over 2,000 events during the 1920s. The Type 37 contributed greatly to the Bugatti tradition of racing excellence. The Type 57, with its supercharged engine, introduced in 1934, won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1937 and 1939. And along with great performance sports cars, Bugatti has long been revered for the great touring luxury cars that he helped create. His chassis and drivetrain provided the foundation for one of the most famous and valuable classic automobiles ever built, the Bugatti Royale. This one, in the Hera collection, is now worth anywhere from $8 to $10 million. The Bugatti EB110, 110 representing the 110th anniversary of the birth of Ettore Bugatti, is the first new car to wear the Bugatti name since Bugatti's death in 1947. We were given an exclusive invitation to take you behind the scenes at Bugatti and watch some of the operations underway in the construction of this enormously powerful car. As we watch the Bugatti craftsmen assembling some of the engine and drivetrain components, here's a quick rundown of the EB110's vital statistics. The 100-inch wheelbase chassis is made from carbon fiber materials and is built by a French aerospace contractor. The car stands only 43.8 inches high and weighs about 3,200 pounds. The wheels are 18 inches in diameter and are 9 inches wide in the front and a foot wide in the rear. And now, to perhaps the best part, the EB110's fabulous engine. A 3.5-liter V12, utilizing 5 valves per cylinder and no less than 4 turbochargers. It creates 550 horsepower at 8,500 RPMs and 420 pounds-feet of torque at 3,800 RPMs. The 6-speed transmission is built inside the engine block and is mated to 3 differentials designed to provide all-wheel drive, with 73% of the power delivered to the rear wheels. The EB110 will accelerate from 0 to 60 in just over 3 seconds and has a top speed of almost 220 miles per hour. Expected to cost somewhere around $500,000, the EB110 will be offered only to those who qualify in the Bugatti buyer selection process. Only 150 are planned to be built each year, and by carefully screening prospective buyers, Bugatti hopes to keep out aggressive speculators who may try to drive up prices. The Bugatti factory facility is just as impressive as its product. State-of-the-art computer design and engineering departments helped to shape the final design of the EB110. Along the way, men like Italian designers Marcello Gandini, Giampaolo Benedini, and Nicola Materazzi, who had headed development of the Ferrari 288 GTO and F40, were all involved in the EB110 project. Just as Ettore Bugatti's craftsmanship and engine building earned him a reputation that survives until this very day, the same kind of painstaking attention to detail is evident in the production of the massive V12 engine which powers the new Bugatti. And while American assembly lines shuttle new cars out of the factory at almost 1 a minute, here at Bugatti, each car completes its final assembly process at a much more deliberate pace. But right now, we're going to give you your first and perhaps only ride you'll ever have in this $500,000 supercar. With a Bugatti test driver at the wheel, it's a few quick laps around the tight, twisty mini road course on the Bugatti factory complex. the EB110, a car which may write new chapters into the bold legacy of pride and performance that has always echoed from the name Bugatti. If you want $1 million car, the best place to find one is $1 million auction. We're on our way to one of the world's most famous auction events, the Imperial Palace Auction in Las Vegas, Nevada. The Imperial Palace Auction in Las Vegas and the Rick Cole Racing and Sports Car Auction in Monterey, California, give investors an opportunity to bid on some of the world's most desirable cars. Not only desirable, but valuable. Some of them truly $1 million cars. Cars whose beauty can quicken the pulse, but whose price tags can weaken the heart.
Okay, and how much would have been on it? Who gave 35,000? I got 10, now 20. I got 10 and now 20,000. Dollar down there, I got 10.
The collectible car investment phenomenon can be traced to 1971, when this man, Dean Cruz, began his seesaw career as an auto auctioneer in Auburn, Indiana. After a rocky start, the tremendous interest in collectible cars has struck gold for Cruz International, now grossing more than $150 million a year. It's said that Dean Cruz can sell cars better than anyone else. A consummate showman, he's auctioned off everything from old toys to restaurants, zoos, and entire forests. Dean Cruz creates a carnival atmosphere that rubs off on the assembled bidders.
Legends in concert, Buddy Holly, Nat King Cole, and Marilyn Monroe.
Dean and his son Mitchell believe the greater the excitement, the higher the bids. And you can see that here at the Imperial Palace in Las Vegas. Today, one of the hottest marks on the auction block is Ferrari. With the passing in 1988 of Enzo Ferrari, some of his masterpieces have become $1 million cars, with an appeal usually reserved for Rembrandts and Van Goghs.
We go to this one, and then Rick Cole has got numerous other auctions in the state that we go to. And it gives you a good indication of what the market is, so you really have to kind of, if you don't really understand what's going on, you could sell a car, and the next day find out it's worth twice as much money as what you sold it for.
To get a sense of what it's like to ante up over $1 million for one of Mr. Ferrari's machines, we're off to Monterey, California, and Rick Cole's Racing and Sports Car Auction. Christine Main, who works for Rick Cole.
And the people and the cars here are from all over the world. They come to preview the cars and to buy the cars. It's a pretty pricey auction. It attracts the best cars in the world. These cars range from $250,000 to $2.5 million.
One of the most fabulous automobiles in the world is now on the stage. This is a 1963 Ferrari 250P. I don't want anybody on the turntable that isn't bidding on this car. This car is worth millions of dollars.
Hold on to your wallet as this 1963 Ferrari 250 prototype goes on the block.
Somebody give me about $6 million. I've got $1 million, $2 million, $1 million, give me $2 million. Got it.
While all the bidders would like to, only a few are willing or able to risk over $2 million on this fabulous race car.
$650, let's stay at those kind of increments. Let's stay at those kind of increments. You're talking about some heavy money here.
Emotion is a funny thing. Even the smartest and the richest can get carried away with the thrill of the moment. Would you believe that only 18 years ago, this car sold for just over $8,000?
$750,000, give me $750,000. Well, I'm going to close the bidding then.
Mark the ticket with an F at $2,725,000 right now. Have a conference, see if you can close the thing and drive it out. Yes or no? Sold! $2,725,000! Sold the car right here at Monterey.
Sold the automobile, $2,725,000.
There goes a $2.7 million car. Well, that's about all the time we have for this edition of $1 Million Cars. This is Bill Stevens, and I hope you've enjoyed our blue chip assortment of the world's most valuable cars. And we hope you'll keep an eye out for the other home videos in our series. And until then, please, buckle up and drive safely. And don't forget to tune in each week for Wild About Wheels. Check your local listings for the time and channel in your area which brings you Wild About Wheels.